Welcome to Capitalize Your Finances, the podcast that's your ultimate guide to mastering personal finances and unlocking the secrets of entrepreneurship. Each week, we dive into the world of personal finance and business development and have fascinating conversations with industry experts, seasoned entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who share their insights, strategies, and stories to help you get ahead in life. Whether you're a seasoned entrepreneur looking to scale your business or someone just starting out on your financial path, this podcast is your go-to resource for inspiration and actionable insights.
Welcome back to Capitalize Your Finances. As always, I'm your host, Christopher A. Poniotu, certified financial planning professional, the Cap in Capitalize. And on today's episode, I'm very excited to give you the 6 biggest money mistakes the ultra wealthy make and what you can learn from it. But as always, before we get into it, the free advice for the week. When in doubt, level up your degree of rationality. The more rational you are, the wealthier you will become. And that really brings me to the 6 biggest money-making mistakes that the ultra wealthy make. And you're going to be able to learn a lot from it. And before we get into it, I just want to preface, it doesn't matter if you are on track to become what is considered ultra wealthy or not. Don't get intimidated by the status or the title. Just think of, okay, whatever I have relative within my situation, I can learn and apply it. Because just because you have a lot of money does not mean you're better or worse. It just means that you may have more problems. So let's get into number 1, and this is in no particular order, but the first biggest money-making mistake that I've seen ultra wealthy make is excessive exposure to private investments. Now, what does that mean? A private investment, that's like private equity, venture capital. If you own the business, like you are the founder and you own the business, everything's tied up in it. All of these private investments sound extremely attractive to really anyone, but especially the ultra wealthy. And in particular, early stage startup opportunities come across the ultra wealthy's plates daily, just all the time. And for obvious reasons, they have the money in order to afford funding these opportunities. Now, private investments, like the angel investing, venture capital, the riskier investments, they can provide an amazing return. And you see that all over the news when someone was an angel investor in Amazon or Microsoft, or the list goes on and on. There's also a huge risk that comes into play when you're dealing with these investments, because the majority of them, they simply, not only do they not pan out, you just lose all of your money. That is a fact. You're not, and you got to think about it. When you're investing in a company that is just starting up, you don't have anything to go off of history or track record. The only thing you're really banking on is the founder and the potential that the founder brings. Because the proof of concept it isn't really there. You're going off of their passion. So the fact of the matter is, most of these are going to go straight to zero. And it doesn't matter how wealthy you are, you need to be prudent and you need to be cautious when investing, and you need to have a prudent process in place. And for those of you that have listened to this show for years, you've heard me say that time and time again. Now, what can you learn from this? If you have a process, good on you. I can say for most of my clients that I work with, they use me as a buffer. And so my clients have said something along the lines of, thank you for the opportunity, but I'm really too busy right now. And my award-winning favorite financial planner handles all these things for me. Now, jokes aside, when clients say something like that, the pressure is off of them and the pressure goes on me. I mean, that's what I get paid to do. So remember, and regardless if you're using me or if you go and do it yourself or use someone else, the more you outsource, the more valuable you will become. So the second biggest money-making mistake I see the ultra wealthy make is being overly concentrated, in personal real estate, in particular luxury homes. Even if you're worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Too much high-end real estate can wreck your wealth in liquidity. In high-end real estate, it ties up all of your money in a way that's just not earning you anything. And the cost of the home is expensive at that level. And when it comes to middle class, really anywhere from lower class up into the, I'd say upper middle or even upper class, owning a home is viewed, or can be viewed, as a wealth building tool. When you're dealing with the ultra wealthy, it's just a different world. And these homes are extremely hard to sell. And that's regardless of interest rates. Because when you're dealing with homes in the multi-millions, the whole interest rate thing kind of goes out the window. You're not putting 5 to 10% down on a $25 million home. I mean, unless you're just insane. And because of that, in the value of these homes being difficult to sell, they could sit on the market for years. And the majority of the time, the seller, you're not getting your original investment back. Now, what can you learn from this? Don't overpay for a home. Also, one quick tangent. My comment on the middle class versus ultra wealthy in terms of wealth building is in terms of real estate. You can actually take this from the ultra wealthy's playbook, because they don't make their money from real estate. They make their money from business. And I'm not against real estate, but real estate on average will not be your ticket to financial freedom. And that is contrary to the constant bombardment of countless social media influencers that say otherwise. They're lying, okay? And by the way, they'll say, no, I'm in the business of real estate. I know that. You just proved my point. You're in the business of real estate. There's a difference. So the third biggest money mistake that I see the ultra wealthy making, is not revisiting lifestyle inflation. So as much as I hate to say this, for most people, as your wealth grows, so does your spending. Some of this is going to be inevitable, and taxes are the major thing that comes to my head. But if you buy a larger home, a car, better food, I mean, the list goes on and on, it's going to add up. And this is actually true regardless of your wealth. But for the ultra wealthy people, it is very true, unfortunately. Now, what can you learn from this? Button up your spending relative to your net worth. I totally get it. As your net worth grows, especially if you have a substantial growth in your net worth or substantial growth in your income, you can give yourself a bit of breathing room. And in fact, I want you to do that, but be really, really tight when it comes to budgeting, as your future self is going to thank you. Because when you button that up and you have that extra free cash flow and you go and you're prudently investing it, all that means is for every dollar that you further add to compounding your wealth for the long run, you're that much closer to being financially independent. And there's a lot that goes into that. Now, one little tip, and one thing that I do psychologically for myself to keep myself in the hustle mindset, is my wife and I, what we do, we keep hardly any cash in our checking account. And so when I look at the balance, it actually gives me this fight or flight mode where I need to go and do better for my family, especially, not only do I have a wife, but I have 2 beautiful little girls. So that strategy does not work for everyone, but it's been revolutionary for us. And I think it could be revolutionary for you too, if you use that strategy prudently and you use it for good. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. And then when we come back, we're going to get into number 4 of the biggest money-making mistakes that I see the ultra wealthy make and what you can learn from it. So don't go anywhere. Stick around.
Are you ready to transform the way you approach sales? This episode is sponsored by the second book in the Capitalize series, Capitalize Your Sales, the all-in-one sales framework that saves you from ever struggling again and teaches you how to sell with sincerity, which dives deep into the art and science of driving sustainable growth. Packed with strategies that go beyond surface-level techniques, This book will help you understand what it takes to truly connect with clients, build long-term relationships, and close deals. Whether you're looking to fine-tune your sales craft or break through to the next level, Capitalize Your Sales offers a roadmap to success designed for today's fast-paced business world. Head on over to your favorite bookstore, order today, and start capitalizing your sales immediately. And now, back to the episode.
Welcome back from the commercial break. We're going to get right into number 4 of the 6 biggest money-making mistakes I see the ultra-wealthy make and what you can do about it. Number 4, failure to manage liquidity needs. So I want to be crystal clear on something. Not all wealth is created equal. You can pause that and replay it and ponder it, because that actually is a very profound statement. Annual spending needs may only be a sliver of what ultra wealthy people's overall net worth is. However, it can still be a challenge due to illiquidity. It's worth noting most ultra wealthy people's net worth is almost totally tied up in their business, especially if it's the main generation, which we're going to get into in a second. So it's not like the ultra wealthy can simply just snap their fingers, cut a check anytime they please. Because again, the majority of their net worth is illiquid. And it's also not wise for them to take out a second mortgage or a HELOC, an investment line of credit, a line of credit on their business, basically anything that further has them dive deeper into debt. That's going to be a wealth killer. And unfortunately, I see this far too often for my liking. You have to remember the ultra wealthy people, it's not just money managing for them, it's being managed for generations. So inappropriate liquidity can ruin a legacy. So what can you learn from all of this? It's going to sound very elementary, and in some cases it is. And for those of you that have listened in for years, you're going to go, here he goes again. But I need to hammer it in. Your emergency fund is paramount. And as your net worth grows, your emergency fund should include estimated tax payments. So all things being equal, it's no wonder that the wealthy have a bit more cash on hand, because their expenses from an absolute standpoint are huge. And even if your expenses aren't huge yet, you can still walk the walk. Number 5, not appropriate amount of tax and estate planning optimization. When it comes to planning for the ultra wealthy, wealth preservation is not only about investment performance. Structuring your estate is arguably more beneficial and can add a larger return, oddly enough. The list of options regarding estate planning, it's way too much for this episode, but things that you can think of and that I see just off the top of my head: generational wealth transfers, setting up appropriate trusts, simple gifting. These tools at your fingertips can go a long way to adding return to your legacy. And another thing I see families delay, which is it's extremely sad, is they delay massively important planning steps until it's too late, or like just before it's too late. And there's a variety of reasons as to why, but if you are waiting to the last minute and then the last minute comes a little premature, that can ruin your family's legacy. So what can you learn from all this? Get your estate plan in order immediately. If you do not have a CPA, or at the very least an enrolled agent, get one as soon as humanly possible. You need the team before it's too late. And even if you're a do-it-yourselfer, it's worth a few $100 having someone take a peek, because worst case, you're out a few $100 and you were right. Best case, you could be pocketing thousands, or in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Once you have your tax team lined up, you need to contact an estate planning attorney right away. And number 6, last but certainly not least, failure to clearly communicate, let alone at all, with the second and third generation. The greatest relationships succeed by communication. And that's not just for finance, that's just life. That's period, no questions asked. No one can tell me anything otherwise. This is no different when it comes to the ultra wealthy clients and their families. As legacy, it's everything for the majority of them. And by clients, I'm speaking from my practice. It's one thing for the main, so I mentioned this earlier, the main generation, which, some people get a little offended by that, but that's the generation that made this whole thing possible. They were the engine revvers of the wealth for generations after them. So it's one thing for the main generation to build the net worth. It's a whole other ballgame for the following generations to be stewards of the family's wealth and legacy. And there are countless instances where wealthy people, they die without anything in place. And that's going to result in eroding a lifetime of immense financial gain. Now, what can you learn from all of this? Really simple, but really important. Discuss future inheritances with your family. Talk about your intentions on how you're going to distribute your money, whether it's to your heirs, to charities, just philanthropy in general. And this involves money values, but it also involves just the morality of everything, the importance of balancing kids and spouses and charities and businesses. For the ultra wealthy, it's extremely tense to start these conversations because in some cases you could be talking millions or hundreds of millions of dollars. And I'm going to tell you, even if you don't have that, it's going to be tense for you too to start these conversations. But the earlier you start, it's the better it will be because it's going to take an immense amount of pressure off of you, and your family's legacy is going to thank you for it. So that does it for today's episode on the 6 biggest money-making mistakes I have seen the ultra wealthy make and what you can learn from it. As always, I'm your host, Christopher A. Paniotu, certified financial planning professional, the Cap and Capitalize. And until next time, keep capitalizing. Take care. As always, thank you for joining me today. If you have questions about today's episode or any personal finance questions, please reach out to me at Cap and Capitalize on Instagram, Chris at capitalizeyourfinances.com, or via our website, capitalizepodcast.com. If you want more Capitalize Your Finances content, head on over to capitalizepodcast.com and check out our blog, free resources, book, and online course. As always, I'm your host, Christopher A. Paniotu, certified financial planning professional, the Cap and Capitalize. And until next time, keep capitalizing.
The information provided should not be considered specific tax, legal, or investment advice and is not specific to any individual's personal circumstances. Each taxpayer should seek independent advice from a tax professional based on his or her individual circumstances. These materials are provided for general information and educational purposes based upon publicly available information from sources believed to be reliable. The information in these materials may change at any time and without notice, and its accuracy cannot be guaranteed. There is no guarantee that any investment strategy will meet its stated objective. All investments involve risk, including potential loss of principal. Content in this material is for general information only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. All performance referenced is historical and is no guarantee of future results. Stock investing includes risks including fluctuating prices and loss of principal. Investments in real estate may be subject to a higher degree of market risk because of concentration in a specific industry, sector, or geographical sector. Other risks can include, but are not limited to, declines in the value of real estate, potential illiquidity, risk related to general and economic conditions, stage of development, and defaults by borrower. Christopher Paniotu is a registered representative with and securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA SIPC. Capitalize Your Finances LLC is a separate entity from LPL Financial. Capitalize Your Finances is not registered as a broker-dealer or investment advisor. CRPS conferred by College for Financial Planning. The people and/or companies mentioned in this podcast are not affiliated with or endorsed by LPL Financial or Capitalize Your Finances.